you don't have someone that you can talk to about the unique aspects of your job. So I decided that, excuse me, I would reach out to others in other schools and ask if they wanted to come together as a kind of a work group where we could talk about the things going on in our libraries and talk about our struggles and talk about our successes and do some other things. And so in 2009, the 09-10 school year, we're school librarians, that's how we talk, right? So the 09-10 school year, we got together, certified school library educators from the districts that you see there, came together, and one of our projects for the year was we went and visited the post-secondary institutions that you see listed on the screen, and we conducted interviews asking them things about what does it take for a student entering college at your institution to be successful? So things that matter to what we deal with in our line of work. And from that, we created a 9th grade information literacy assessment. And so all of our schools were giving this assessment to our incoming freshmen to determine what is their level of readiness. And then we knew where we needed to shoot when we sent them off from 12th grade. And so this gave us a lot of talking points for our school boards. They were all very interested in our work and what we were doing and how this was helping to prepare students for post-secondary education. We then, after several years, said, hey, it's time to go back because things have changed. So in the 13-14 school year, we went back to post-secondary institutions, the ones that you see listed there at the bottom of the screen. And we knew that we were ready for some new knowledge, right? We know how fast things change in our profession, but we wanted to see what we needed to be doing differently. So then that led to an update of our 9th grade incoming freshman assessment. And it also led to some curriculum developments that occurred uniquely in each one of our schools. Then in the summer of 2018, our ISLE, the Association of Illinois School Library Educators in Illinois, put out this offer to create chapters. And so I took the drive to, I think we were in Peoria, and we came together to talk about what would this look like if we had chapters of school librarians gathered all over the state. And we got to name our own chapter. I was the only one there, and so I came up with the name. I thought it was cute with the pitch to soil, because we're in Southern Illinois and I come from a farming family. So we went with it and my group loved it. There were some other ones suggested that were like just for laughs, but this is what we came up with. So our group is certified school library educators. We span we're mostly high school library educators, but we do have some elementary or some middle school rather, and some that do both elementary and middle. So now our current membership, if you take a look at this slide, is amazing. We have a lot of districts represented here, and it's so great when we all get together. We are like a powerhouse, and we love it when we start collaborating with each other. In 2019, we started working, we were connected through one of our members, really, Shannon Boker at Triad, their high school had done some things with the Leadership Council Southwestern Illinois. And so we got connected with that organization. And I knew something about it because of my father's profession, but we learned a lot about the Leadership Council of Southwestern Illinois. We learned what their mission was and what their directive is, which is to generate better economic growth in our region. And they do this through different outreach initiatives that they have and programs that they run. And so they were a natural fit for us. And we started this relationship with them. We started planning for what we wanted to do, which was to address the gap. And the gap was we're looking at this from a perspective of kids that are going to college, but what about students that go right into the workforce? Or what about students that go into a trade school or technical school? So when we conducted our next round of post-secondary interviews in the it was the 1920 school year, we, well, no, I'm sorry, it spanned the 1819 and the 1920 school year. We went to some different places. So, you know, we went to some trade schools and technical schools, and we talked specifically to schools that had different programs there than the schools that we had been to before. And at that point, we then created a toolkit that we used that was standards aligned to the Illinois Learning Standards, that discussed what a student needs to be ready for post-secondary success. And we continued our work with the Leadership Council Southwestern Illinois. We had, in fact, our entire plan done, and we were ready the week, it was in April, the date is now out of my head, but we had the round table planned for a Thursday the following week. And it was that weekend that all the schools around here started shutting down due to COVID. So in April of 2020, the whole initiative of bringing our workforce roundtable together was canceled due to COVID. And then in the following school year, 21-22, when we tried to get momentum going, the Leadership Council underwent some very significant leadership changes. And it just, the timing wasn't right. So we postponed. But finally, in last year, in the 22-23 school year, our roundtable finally happened. And it was such an amazing event. So we were hosted by the Center for Academic and Vocational Excellence through Belleville Township High School District 201. And they call that the Cave. So we all journeyed out to the Cave on April 19th. And our panel was made up of certified school librarians and district leaders. So you see us sitting here in the picture watching our panel. The entire roundtable was moderated by Mr. Kyle Anderson, who is the lead at the Leadership Council Southwestern Illinois. And on our panel, we had the companies that you see on this slide. We had a very nice cross-section of different companies representing, you know, jobs in the medical field, jobs in aeronautics, going into the military, the railway. It was just wonderful. And the panel was just so amazing to listen to. We talked about how powerful, listening to what they said, how powerful it was for us as educators to hear this. And I'm going to get into a little bit about what we asked and what they said, but here's some other pictures I just want to share with you, so you can see we were all learning together this day for sure. So, what we were attempting to do was to look at, if a student leaves high school and goes straight into an entry-level position, using the lens of information literacy, what are the competencies that that student would need to have a strong mastery of in order to be successful in that entry-level position? And so we came up with a battery of questions that we were going to use during the panel. We gave the questions to the panel folks ahead of time so that they could have time to formulate their answers. And our end goal was that we would develop, like we did for post-secondaries, a skill building toolkit that could be used in any school setting, probably mostly at high school, to help with this idea of getting a student ready for that entry-level workforce position. What you see at the top of the screen is the small explanation that we gave to each company before we sent the questions out. So we're focusing on work skills for entry-level positions. Our aim is to understand the necessary competencies so that we can develop learning benchmarks for 9th through 12th grades in order to prepare them for the workforce. This enables us to further develop a toolkit for area educators. We then had our questions categorized in 3 categories: communication and collaboration, information access and use, and professionalism. And on this screen, I gave you a sample of the questions that we have utilized, or that we utilized, but I'm going to drill into a little bit more. I wanted to give you some of the responses because that was really the powerful part of the whole event. So we asked things really about reading and writing, because we are a part of that collaborative instruction in a classroom, how to make a student a better active reader, especially when we're talking about screen reading. We know that that's difficult. We go into that gloss over mode. So we wanted to talk about reading and writing skills. And another thing that is, I would say, like, I don't want to say consuming us, but is like bearing down on us in a major way in education is AI. How this is just rocking our field. And we want to know, how do we prepare students for that, for these careers that they're going to go into? And then we talked about professionalism. And one of the things we talked about there was in our students' in the part of their life where they are online and they have a presence, what do they need to do to be ready for how they conduct themselves in a professional workplace environment? Because a lot of times when we're instructing and we give examples, we say, you know, we are teaching you this because in college, you're going to need to do this. We also want to be able to say, we are teaching you this because when you go to the workforce, you're going to need to be able to do this. Because when we can bring those real world situations into the classroom, we increase the buy-in in their understanding of why they need to learn the things that we're teaching. So here's a little sampling of what we got that day. One question we asked was, how do employees utilize critical thinking, creativity, innovation to make decisions or solve problems in your industry? And this answer we all loved was given by Colonel Glenn Collins from the 923rd, sorry, that should have been 23rd, Airlift Wing. And he talked about the 3 Ds. And so it's being a disciplined decision maker, right? And so you're not always going to know immediately how to answer it, but you need to know how to make that decision and give yourself the time to make it well. And that involves research. And so we all love to hear that, right? He also talked about being decisive. And again, taking that time that you need to make the answer right and to give the right information, but also to be diplomatic and to have empathy and to put yourself in that person's shoes when you're dealing with another employee. So again, these are things that we can use. We can talk about that. We can use that in classroom examples. And so those were just really wonderful. Another question we asked was about interpersonal communications. We wanted to know what qualities are needed in an industry and how a student might utilize those skills on a day-to-day basis in that particular profession. And Diane Tyre of Gulfstream had a great answer. She said, you know, we don't see that our employees come in self-assured. They're not self-assured enough that when they see something wrong, they don't necessarily speak up. And she said, we build airplanes. We need to have employees that are willing and ready and strong enough and confident enough to say, this is not right. This is not going right. We need to address this. And so that was another really refreshing thing to see, because we do know that there is sometimes a lack of communication, and that students are willing to kind of sit back and let the information come to them, not as willing to maybe offer it out, whether that be an effect of remote learning during COVID or just something that we're seeing because of an overuse of technology. So it was something that we definitely discussed that day. Then we got into the idea of AI and how is that affecting their particular field. And Jeff Mishkin from Cordy, he mentioned that, you know, it's the same thing. It's the fundamentals that we need these students to have in order to be successful. Yes, our tools, our technology is going to always change, but if we can train them and bring them up with the right fundamentals, we can apply that to the new tool. And so, as he said, you can't train attitude, but you can train skill. And so he really stressed the idea that soft skills, those mastery of soft skills, is what's going to separate a candidate in a position. And he also really stressed that they need to be more prepared for team collaboration and working together in groups. And that's certainly something that we do and continue to do in education. Oh, sorry. So our next steps is that we will be working together as a chapter, and we started this process today, actually, prior to this meeting. We are starting to look at the data that we gathered, the input we gathered from the panel. The question is, what does this toolkit look like? What shape does it take? How do we want to convey this information to others that might use it? And so we want to continue to develop something that's going to be a useful toolkit that can just be ready to drop into our workplace in high schools and help us bring those real world applications into our instructional classroom. We want to promote this. We want to get this out to ISLE, I think, is going to be key in helping us promote. The University of Illinois, through their School of Information Science, they offer a really big summer retreat for school librarians. We think that that could be another way to get this out. Conferences, obviously, we can present at conferences. And then I think the Leadership Council itself is going to be great at helping us propel this information. So that's all good. And bottom line, what we're out to do is to develop tools to prepare our students for an exemplary future. We know that they need these, and we know that they are our future. And so we want to send the very best workers into the work field that we can, and that is our guiding principle. So that's it. I'll take questions.
Oh, perfect timing. Yeah, it's like we do have one question from Anna Yackel. Have you thought of partnering with public libraries for workforce readiness? We are there for students now, and when there are no longer students, public libraries need to support and help prepare people as well.
Yes, I think I can't speak for everybody because there's some new folks in our chapter that have just joined, but I know those of us that have been in the chapter for a while, we all have very healthy relationships with our public libraries and already have collaborative relationships with them. So I think that's a very natural fit for us to blend that with the work of the public library, especially, you know, a lot of our public libraries have very strong connections with homeschool programs. I mean, there's certainly lots of avenues that we can provide this information, and public libraries can make that fit the programming that they're doing.
That was the only question so far.
Any other questions from anyone? One of my major goals in the school library world is to increase those school library and public library partnerships. And Jen, whenever I need something to use as an example, I'm like, Jen Lara is doing a really great job of this. She's my shining star. So just speaking from my point of view, as I work with our schools in our membership, is I am always trying to get schools to reach out to public libraries and public libraries to reach out to schools, because there are so many efforts that we make that are duplicated, and we should be partnering. So I think that this is a really natural fit for public libraries to take an interest in and help us turn out effective citizens of the world, right, Jen, that will vote for public libraries someday.
That's right. Because as I always say, we have to show them how wonderful libraries are. They need to see that, and they need to feel it, so that, well, for one, I mean, that we want more students to become librarians. So that's a big deal. You know, we want them to see how awesome we are and want to be us. So yes, I am a huge advocate of the collaboration between the school and public library. I don't see Ryan Johnson on here, but if he was on this call, I think he would attest to that I am firmly committed to that. So all I ask is that you guys give us some time. It's gonna take us probably the majority of the school year. We all, like you, work full time, and so this work of our chapter is an extra thing that we do, and it's gonna take us probably the year to get all of this organized and into something digested and organized in a way that we feel is very user-friendly for whoever might take it from us. So you know, just give us some time to get it developed, and I am proud of the absolutely smart and go-getter people that are on our chapter that just want to take things like this on, and they're amazing to work with. So we're going to come up with something amazing. I know it.
It will be amazing. I can't wait to see it. See
And
the chapter.
thank you for your kind words, Leah. It's very kind of you to say.
I can't wait to see it because I joined the chapter late, just recently actually. So I've been, kind of, they're dragging me along behind them, right? So.
There is some legacy on the chapter, which certainly helps to understand where we've been, and there's a lot of newness, and I love that because that helps direct where we're going. So
We have these new members because I love that we have the institutional knowledge and the legacy, but I also love the energy of the new folks. I think it's a great synergy.
yes, absolutely.
Chat, Anna says, thank you. I think public libraries play a big part in economic development.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Talk to you more. Council too. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we can conclude the presentation. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you so much. And we all learned something today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to me present. I hope, you know, if you have follow-up questions, I will put my email in the chat and you could reach out to me if you have anything that, you know, later this evening or whenever it pops into your brain. Let me know. I'm always happy to share any resources we have, or even get you in contact with somebody else on our chapter that might be the person you need to talk to. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.